Coming up on Tekzilla, broadband caps suck! Why is my new video card slower than my old one? A trio of our most popular tips and your suggestions for the best search for IT jobs. So find the nearest Girl Scout. Hey, there's an app for that, and grab a case of Thin Mints, because Tekzilla starts now. This episode of Tekzilla is made possible by GameFly. Go to gamefly.com/Tekzilla for your free trial membership. Squarespace and Gazelle, the fastest and easiest way to sell and recycle your gadgets. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Heron.
Welcome to Tekzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Hey, whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the tastiest barbecue in Texas, we've got an answer for you.
And if we don't, we'll drive to Texas to taste every single barbecue joint we can get our hands on, or at least the barbecue.
Yummy.
Oh wait, that's the part where I'm supposed to say, we'll track down someone who does.
I was caught drinking barbecue sauce one time. It was so good.
Drinking barbecue sauce in the restaurant?
I just couldn't wait.
To get bounced?
No, but I was reprimanded for doing it.
Were you drinking it out of the bottle?
Yeah, I was. Long story. I didn't like, use that on somebody's food after that or something. It went with me, but still, I don't recommend it. Not for everyone, at least.
I need to be very careful about where I eat with you. Hey, on a more serious note, our hopes go out to everyone suffering from the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. And while being a parent living on a small island on the West Coast has me as paranoid as anybody else about big waves, flooding, and, oh yes, airborne nuclear disaster, I want to remind everybody in the Tekzilla crew that we want to stop FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, in its tracks. Make sure you don't forward any bogus info via email. And if you have, say, family who likes to put you on these crazy chainmails, send them an email when the information's wrong. Case in point, the map issued by the Australian Radiation Services that show the map of nuclear fallout from Japan killing off most of the population of the western United States. It's bogus, folks. Check Snopes.com before you forward any chainmail that shows up in your inbox. There is so much BS out there, and we want to stop it in its tracks.
Yep. This would also be a good teachable moment. Horrible events like this are why we tell you to have your important data backed up online somewhere that isn't anywhere near your house.
Right.
And on a lighter note, I'd just like to say the New York Times is reporting that poker bots are starting to get good at online poker. Microsoft is dropping the Zune, and if you didn't get an iPad 2 this weekend, you're gonna wait for a few weeks because they sold out. Yeah,
they're basically saying 3 to 4 weeks to get an iPad 2 if you order online, though some blogs online are saying Apple stores are still getting shipments, might even open early to help sell those. Adtech.com, by the way, has an awesome early write-up on the new graphics in the iPad. Turns out it's Imagination Technologies Power VR SGX 543 MP2, just rolls right off the tongue.
Nice.
No wonder Steve didn't talk about that.
Blah, 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 blah. Chipset. Anyway.
We'll have a link to that in the show notes. The performance based on the early testing, though, is fantastic.
It's tempting me.
Shaders.
They're emailing me to buy stuff, and I'm like,
you could buy my old one, and then I could buy the new one.
I'm not going to do it. Too late. Hey, Chris in Humboldt emailed about AT&T's new data caps and asks, how will this affect streaming Netflix, live hockey games online, streaming music, etc.? Is a 250, I'm assuming, gigabyte cap manageable for this type of usage? He sent along a link to Engadget's report that AT&T will be capping DSL at 150 gigabytes and UVerse at 250 gigabytes. Now, we're not thrilled with 250 gigabyte caps, and we're usually not, we're really not thrilled with anything less than that, like 150 gigabyte or less. But AT&T means that less than 2% of their customers consume 20% of their data flow. And that seems pretty consistent with Comcast logic when they rolled out their caps a while back. And congrats to everybody in Canada that fought Rogers' attempt to drop a 25 gigabyte cap on data. That's beyond limiting. Seriously, the caps are here in the US are just in time for now that every HD TV and Blu-ray player and everybody in the world is streaming video this way and that. And it's just these kind of limits have to go.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention Steam, the gigabytes of data that are gobbled on any good Steam binge, 15 gigabyte World of Warcraft downloads, Skype, YouTube, online backups, and, well, an industry push to move everything to the cloud is in you have to shove it over the internet or download it off the internet to get to it. We don't like caps, but hey, we make our living off of streaming video. To focus on your question, Chris, how will it affect you depends totally on how many Netflix movies, live hockey games, and, well, every other bit of data you up or download. Because I'm assuming I haven't found out directly, but as near as I can tell, AT&T does the same thing as Comcast, where all the data you move over the pipe is counted. Netflix rated all the major ISPs back in January. They say they've got streams as dense as 4,800 kilobits per second, like 4.6 something megabytes per second. The best results, though, in streaming were actually in Canada over Rogers, 3,000 kilobits per second, followed by Charter and Comcast with just over and under 2,600 kilobits per second here in the U.S. Now, if you go to web.fort.com/tools/bandwidth.asp, that's my beloved bandwidth version and file size calculator, I get 1.2 gigabytes per hour at 2,600 kilobits per second, or if you never sleep and never work and leave the video rolling when you run to the potty, 842 gigabytes per month on an average Netflix HD stream. But yeah, 3 hours a day could easily rack up 108 gigabytes a month. If you've got multiple folks viewing simultaneously, say college roommates or teenagers, anybody with Steam habits, some serious file uploading for offsite backup because of the whole thing about the potential dangers of having your house disappear, you will blow right through that 150 gigabyte cap. 250 gigabytes takes a little bit more work, but as at Firefox15 noted, at Patrick Norton, so true, the heavy user of today is the standard user of tomorrow. And I'll be honest with you, SD video, a fraction of the size of HD video.
Audio, nothing.
Audio is practically nothing.
That's a freebie.
But all of these together, there's a reason those caps are going in place, and hopefully, ISPs will continue to offer more tiered options because a la carte bandwidth could get a little expensive.
One place you can save some bandwidth with Steam gaming that you mentioned is if you're going to be rebuilding your system rather than re-download all of your favorite titles, there's a terrific backup tool built right into that application that lets you burn off.
Doesn't back it up over the net, does it?
You should be able to do that to a network drive if it's mapped properly.
No, I was just joking.
Sorry, I'm slow. But it does allow you to burn off of your say all your game collections and stuff to a CD or DVD, which would save you from having to re-download it, which not only saves you time, but it keeps your bandwidth in check. It's really what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I would just like Comcast to finish rolling out their bandwidth monitor to all users, since I'm still waiting for it to show up on my account management.
I think a couple months ago I was on a wild BitTorrent binge, and I went through a couple hundred gigabytes in like 3-4 days. Right. So I was really worried about that last 50, and would I be getting the message saying, "Oh, we're going to start throttling your account now?" And I got lucky, but I had it in the back of my mind, and I was actually monitoring the traffic. So
I understand the motivations of the ISPs. They want to make sure everyone has a good experience. They want to make sure the tubes aren't too packed. But on the flip side, some of those
technology is to the point where, man, it should be a fire hose of data. Yeah. And it just shouldn't matter. They should just keep upgrading the robustness of the network to the point where who cares how fast you go?
Investing in the infrastructure?
Gigabit to everybody.
Next thing you're going to tell me quality is job one.
Yes.
Time to thank one of our sponsors, GameFly.com. If you haven't heard about it, GameFly is awesome. We're talking about the largest online video game rental service. They've got over 7,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. It's video gaming heaven. We're talking about plans starting at just $15.95 a month, and you'll get 1 to 4 games at a time, and you'll get to keep them for as long as you like. No late fees, no due dates. Shipping is always free, so take forever to perfect each and every level of that new game. When you're done, send it back. GameFly will send you the next available game on your list. But if you really like the game, you can click Keep It on the GameFly website. You score a discounted price on it, and GameFly is going to send you the case of manuals free of charge. You're a Tekzilla fan, so you can score a 15-day free trial, but only if you go to GameFly.com/Tekzilla. And if you do, you'll not only be getting a great gaming service, but you'll be helping support Tekzilla. It's GameFly.com/Tekzilla. Please check it out. What's that? You don't subscribe to Tekzilla Daily? Not only are they hosted by the most awesome Veronica Belmont, but we pack each and every one with incredibly helpful computing tips and tricks.
Hey, how good can they be? Here are the top 3 Tekzilla tips based on the number of viewers from the past few months. Free tool to stay focused.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tekzilla Daily. I'm Veronica Belmont. Do you have trouble concentrating on a given task when you're on the computer? I know I do, and you are not alone. I have just the tool to help you out, whether you're on a PC or a Mac. It's called Focus Booster, available at focusboosterapp.com, and it's an Adobe Air app. By default, your session length is 25 minutes, and your break time is 5 minutes. Just hit the green play button when you're ready to start your session, and the timer begins counting down. As it counts down, the progress bar gradually changes colors as it gets closer to the end. You can also shrink it to get a less obtrusive counter, and if you minimize it completely, the system tray icon changes colors as well. Just hit the info icon to change your settings like session and break length, whether to play a ticking sound while you're working, and whether to play a sound alert when each session or break is up. When your session is up, the timer automatically counts down your break time, though when your break is up, the timer stops and you have to manually start it again for your next session. So if you're having trouble focusing on one task, try Focus Booster, and don't forget to take that break you deserve.
Get instant search in Firefox.
Google recently implemented an instant search feature that displays your search results in real time as you type without needing to hit enter or the search button. Wouldn't it be great to have that functionality in Firefox too? Well, now you can with Instant Firefox. Available at instantfirefox.com, just install the extension, restart your browser, and the next time you want to search, just start typing in your address bar, and the results will appear immediately in the page below. By default, it only works in new blank tabs, and it also takes over that new default. So say goodbye if you had a custom page appear in your new tab window. But you can change this in the options page. Just turn off Open Instant Firefox Search by default on New tab. And you can also activate Instant Search in any existing tab by hitting the spacebar. Plus, you can use search keywords to search specific websites like Wikipedia, YouTube, etc. You'll also notice that it's not exactly the usual Google interface. It is powered by Google, but all the sidebars are stripped out, though it does keep the images, news, links, etc. So if you want that handy instant search available on Google's homepage, right in your browser, give Instant Firefox a try.
Teach parents how to use the computer.
The holidays are over and we're getting back to our regular routine. If you went home for the break, your parents or other less tech-savvy family might have had some questions about how to do this or that on the computer machine. If you didn't have the patience to explain or told them you'd get back to them later, I have the perfect tool to help you out. It's called teachparentstech.org. It provides a template for an email to your beloved relative to explain basic computing techniques. Start at the top, fill out their name, the start of the email, then check the boxes for the videos that you think they'd find helpful, divided into categories. Everything from the very basic, how to copy and paste, how to make text bigger, resizing a photo, attaching a file to email, finding movie showtimes, and because this site is made by Google employees, how to use Google as a calculator. You can view each of these videos by clicking the little play icon to the right of each one, and of course, they're all YouTube videos, so you can find the direct link to each one as well. When you're done, fill out your name and hit preview to see what your email will look like. Then just enter your email address and the recipient's address and hit send. So help your friends and family find their way around the internet and their computer with these simple how-to videos.
I want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Squarespace.com. We're talking about well, they call it a flexible solution. I call it an awesome way for anybody to create a blog, personal portfolio, whatever, a website. You want a website? You can't code? That's not a problem because Squarespace has amazing tools to let you create a high-end, complex website that is your own without paying out a lot of cash. Don't worry if you come across any questions at 2 in the morning because Squarespace gives every user 24/7 support. Now, we know a ton of you guys have signed up and built your sites with Squarespace. Now we're looking for your questions and tips for Squarespace. Do us a favor, email your questions or your tips about Squarespace to squarespace@revision3.com for a chance to have your question featured or tips shown off in a future episode of Tekzilla. And if you don't already have a Squarespace site, go to squarespace.com/Tekzilla. You'll get a 2-week free trial and learn quite a bit more about how Squarespace builds your website, hosts your website, and just makes things really easy if you want to live on the web. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode, and do yourself a favor, or do us a favor, go to squarespace.com/Tekzilla and learn a little bit more about how Squarespace works. Mario out in Toronto writes in, I'm trying to rip my home DVDs, yes, ones I've purchased, to video files on my computer. I use Diversity to stream my media to my Xbox 360 and my PS3. I've tried various software and various video settings, and somehow I end up getting a 16 gigabyte video file from a regular DVD movie, not a Blu-ray. I've tried lowering the quality and changing settings. That sometimes gets me under a 4 gigabyte file size, but it looks horribly pixely. Can you tell me what settings, video format size, etc. I can use to rip my video and what software? I tried Handbrake, but it doesn't offer too many video formats, and Diversity didn't like them. I'm currently using the I'm2 DVD Ripper, which gives me many various video options. I just don't know which ones to use. Mario.
Wow, 16 gig file from a DVD is something's
wrong.
going haywire there. So
You should not have when you rip and encode, you should not end up with a file 3 or 4 times the size of the original file.
not at all. Well, you are using Tversity, Mario, so you could just rip the DVD to a folder and stream that right through Tversity. That should be 100% compatible, and it would also give you multi-channel audio. However, if you want to know the specifics about what Microsoft and Sony provide as far as format support for both the respective consoles, they provide a great online page for each one that goes over exactly what formats, including audio tracks as well, that are supported by both formats. The challenge is really finding a common video file format that would play equal or play well on either console, and that's really the challenge. The latest version of the Osman free video encoder, Handbrake, even though you tried it once, it does include something called the high profile preset that produces a compatible M4V video file that is comprised of an H.264 video stream and AAC audio. And that will play on either console, and that's where I recommend starting first. You're going to end up with a stereo track, unfortunately, with this method, I'm telling you. If you want multi-channel audio, well, you could stick with a free DVD ripper that I know works really well, like DVD Fab HD Decryptor. It's as good as any of them I've tried, although it does simply dump your content to a single folder. If you're looking to do something else with that, you try other tools. However, once that disk is on a folder in your computer, point Handbrake at it and select that high profile preset under the regular subsection. Add it to the job queue and let it roll. And that's really it, and that's about as simple as it gets.
Is it that hard to get the 5.1 audio? Can Handbrake do surround sound audio?
Sure, it can actually, you could put it into, say, an MKV file and just have it not transcode the audio at all and wrap it up, but it won't play back on the consoles. So that's the problem. On the Xbox 360 in particular, it only supports one of the supported video formats. I believe it's VC1, Windows Media Video 9. That's the only one that will do 5.1 audio with an HD video. If you just leave it in the MPEG-2 stream that it is by nature on DVD, like I was saying, just leave it in the folder. It'll be anywhere between, say, 4 and 8 gigs in size, depending on the disk you just ripped. Just add that to your collection as far as Tversity streaming it, and that should take care of all your transcoding and put it into a format. Depending on how you have it set up, you should be able to maintain the multi-channel audio that way as well.
So Tversity should transcode the contents of a ridiculous array of video formats.
Oh, totally.
And work with them.
So if you've got the space, I wouldn't recode it all and just leave it in simple rips of the folders. Rip to a folder structure with the tool I just mentioned. If you want to rip it to an ISO format, you could always take that folder structure and use something like Image Burn to create an ISO file of that if you just want it contained in a single file. But otherwise, don't fear the Handbrake. It's actually really good, especially with the new 9.9.5 update, I believe it is. That's the newest one.
It's awesome.
You really don't have to change any of the settings other than point to where you want your output folder to go. And if you install VLC, that will be your playback if you want a preview window. So install VLC on top of it, point to where VLC is as well, and you're pretty much good to go. And like I said, add the jobs to the queue folder. That way you can set up multiple encodes and then go to sleep and have it run overnight and have it do like 5 encodes while you're catching Z's.
Bastian writes in, ever since I switched my old CRT, that 85 Hertz monitor, for a new HD LCD monitor, I feel like all moving pictures are blurry. And no, I'm not talking about LCD response time, which has improved so much over the years. I've done a bit of research on the subject, and I found this lengthy but comprehensive article on the subject on Microsoft's site. It's basically a hardware article. The gist is that LCDs don't erase the picture on a retina with a black frame like CRTs do. The result is motion blur. Heck, Wikipedia even has an article on it, so I know I'm not the only one annoyed by this effect. So HD, 3D, all that's cool, but when will we have actual motion blur-free HD TVs? Bastien in Saint-Paul de Casson, France, and I would like to apologize everyone around the world who speaks French for the way I said that, because my French pronunciation is the suck.
You're brave. Hey, Bastien, the article you linked to is literally 10 years old, almost 10 years old, and oh my, how the technology has changed since then. A decade ago, LCD televisions produced pretty much dull and muddied pictures, motion picture, while a state-of-the-art widescreen 42-inch plasma with 1024 by 768 resolution cost about 15 grand. Hence, back in the day, and for a long time, LCDs were considered what they call digital signage. They were great with a still image, but not so good with motion video. Now, getting back to the comment you made about LCDs not inserting a black frame the way CRTs do, well, CRTs don't actively insert a black frame between each screen refresh either. However, a CRT screen does blank briefly as the electron beam that's drawing the picture is repositioned to the top of the screen to begin drawing the next frame. Now, about 5 years ago, some LCD HDTV manufacturers began to incorporate a blanking function that inserted a gray or a black frame between the active picture frames. The idea was to effectively reset the LCD's pixels before drawing a new frame, thereby reducing the blur. And early on, this approach actually introduced new and visually unpleasant artifacts that left a lot to be desired. Now, fast forward to today, where LCD HDTVs can refresh it at speeds of 240 hertz or even faster, and they actually do incorporate blur reduction technologies that include black frame insertion and a scanning backlight system on some models as well. And I'm really not sure where to go with that beyond there, but essentially things are a lot different. And you are talking about a PC monitor, and the difference between a PC monitor LCD screen versus what you have sitting in your home theater room is going to be a little bit different as well. And you might not have all the latest bells and whistles for video processing on your PC monitor that you do have on your HDTV per se. So I would say take a look at some of the functions that your PC monitor offers as far as video display. Right. It could have a mode that's better optimized for it. Also, try different video player programs. I find that it can be a crapshoot between one program and another of how well it actually renders the video out. And that includes the video driver as well for your graphics card. Newer drivers provide better support for video decoding and even newer features to handle some of the decoding in hardware. And it's one of those things where you kind of just got to make sure everything's enabled the way it should be, and you should get a better picture no matter what. You shouldn't be seeing a lot of blurring. I've seen shootouts with real-world video where we had LCD, plasma, and a CRT monitor, and playing real-world video content, there's very little difference in the actual blur of the motion picture when you look at it.
There is a small possibility, like the guy who basically kind of just figured out the science of hydraulics and how waves and water motion works. One of the reasons he was able to do that because his visual acuity was so much higher than the average human being. The way kind of like the whole Radar O'Reilly on MASH, where he heard the circuit between his ears and his brain worked faster than a normal human being. Some people can actually see things a little differently than the rest of us, and hopefully you aren't one of those people. And like Rob says, most of the modern stuff is significantly improved over when that article.
You can also, I mean, if you look at, like you mentioned also in this email, he mentioned a test application that would show you differences in terms of pixel performance, either how the response time is of the monitor and other aspects of it. Test patterns, it's a lot easier to see differentiation between the different display technologies. It's when you get into real world video, and I mean, we hooked up a digital DVR with HD output, and we were going over that same content on all three monitors. And when you get into real world video, the differences are much less
difficult to see. Crom at Minnesota has a problem. Oh, this is good. You want to read this one?
Hey, I went from a Radeon 4850, it's a graphics card, to a Radeon 5450, thinking this would be a large improvement. But after running the Windows Experience Index, the number went from a 6.8 to a 4.3. What gives? Is this new card truly worse, or is the index missing something? The stats for both cards are about the same. The difference was that the new card was DirectX 11 certified, the old one was not. Signed Crom in Minnesota.
Oh boy. First of all, one should always avoid upgrading to a new video card that has about the same specs as the old one. Second, the Windows Experience Index isn't the best benchmark for different video cards, especially if you're looking at like similar or close performance numbers for the specs on the card. In this case, though, in your particular case, it shows the rather brutal difference between the 4850 and the 5450. It's simple. The 4850 is a generation behind, design behind the 5450, but it was targeted as a 3D gaming card, a quality, mid-level 3D gaming card that would pretty much deliver on most video games. 5450, a year later, looks like it has the same specs, but well, it's a year later. So the mid-range cards are higher spec, and the 5450 is now an entry-level video card. It does have some 3D and video acceleration capabilities and a fanless design, right, because it's more efficient than the older card, but it's really targeted towards home theater PCs and non-gaming applications like business desktops. Here's the thing, right? The specs on the box kind of look the same, but the 4850 has a couple critical differences. One, a wider memory bus, 256 bits to the 5450's 64 bits, which means your textures are moving, well, basically you're moving smaller chunks of data, and the 4850 has a higher floating point performance. We're talking about 1,000 gigaflops versus 104 gigaflops on the 5450. Look, there's a lesson here, and it's a painful one. Research your purchase before you plunk money on an upgrade, and be very wary of specs that look the same when you're talking about a year or two's difference between generations on a CPU or a video card. Basically, your card is crippled by comparison.
I did a similar upgrade, and I believe I had something like the 4870, and its natural successor ended up being the 5870. Right. And if those last three numbers are really what kind of tells you where the specs are kind of going that way. But like Pat said, check with review sites. I love Tom's Hardware's VGA charts just to see relative performance of where you're going to be spending your money and what you'll get out of it. And it's a good way just to do some comparative performance checks before you actually spend the money. You know,
there's great video card for you. Tom's Hardware and Nantech.com. PC Purchase did a great thing where they took like a 3-year-old graphics card and compared it to modern graphics cards. There's some pretty good stuff there. HardOCP.com has some good stuff. Just do us a favor and check the specs on your card versus the new ones before you upgrade. Because I should say, actually not check the specs, check the benchmarks. For the stuff you want to do, whether it's video games or video encoding. Or memory
bandwidth's a huge deal for high-res textures and large resolutions to deal with. And if you don't have that effective memory bandwidth in the new product you just bought, you are literally going from a product that had lots of very fast pipes between the memory and the rest of the subsystem versus one that has a very
has 4 times as many lanes on the highway, between the memory and
the fire hose versus the straw. And unfortunately, you've got a DX11 part now, but it's got the straw to the memory rather than the fire hose. Pain.
Are you thinking about upgrading a piece of hardware that you bought recently? You're going to love our next sponsor, Gazelle. They give you cash for more than 300,000 products in over 20 different electronics categories. Shipping free on most items of value, and in most cases, they'll even send you a box to ship it to them with. Also, for you green folks out there, Gazelle makes their recycling partners adhere to some pretty strict policies, and some simple ones too. No exports, no landfills, and tons of data security standards. So if you're looking to upgrade the latest iPad, smartphone, or gadget, check out Gazelle.com. It is a great way to get the cash to do it. Gazelle.com, that's the place you can learn more. Nick wanted to put in his 2 cents about CNC machines for personal use. He writes, "Hey guys, just watched episode 198 about the Cupcake CNC. You kept mentioning that CNC machines are in the $30K range. You should know that there are 2 companies, Tag and Sureline, that produce benchtop CNC machines for about 1/10 or 1/15 of that. Say $2,200 to $3,500, even less if you buy CNC ready and add your own control. There are also many suppliers who sell aftermarket kits to convert cheap Asian mini mills, such as those found as Harbor Freight, into automated devices. Software runs from free EMC Linux CNC to cheap Mac 3 CNC, and there are tens of thousands of small, inexpensive CNC machines happily chugging away all over the country, making parts from all manner of materials: steel, aluminum, wood, plastic, etc. Yet for some reason, it doesn't elicit the same enthusiastic press as the 3D printers. Nick. Disclaimer, I'm an independent Tag dealer. Nick, I think you should send us a CNC mill for testing. Oh. We will slather and glow and froth all over that thing.
As someone who worked in a machine shop and a woodworking shop during college years where we had lots of CNC machines, and it's unlimited. You get a creative person with the right drawing CAD program, and you can make anything you want. And you can make lots of them too if you get into the whole manufacturing thing, if you're into that sort of thing. Anyway,
we apologize for our lack of froth. I will say that the whole
CNC
printing out
computer
of
numeric controlled, by the way, if you don't know what a CNC is.
CNC.
Awesome. With tool changers and coolant systems, and it's awesome.
I love the ones where you're like looking at somebody, you know what I mean? It's like a block of aluminum goes in, and like 20 minutes later, a complete head for a small block Chevy or an LS6 comes out.
It was like also, we use relatively small ones that are maybe about 8 feet by about 6 feet by about maybe 7 feet high, but they make 4-story units that do like rocket cones for the space shuttle and things like that as well. So it's as much money as you have to throw at that kind of stuff, but precision manufacturing.
But he's talking about cheap hacks on existing hardware.
Stuff I can do at home.
Last week we had a question from Charlie asking about network admin courses. He'd finished the MSCE, the CompTIA Plus, and a few others, and wanted suggestions for other certs that can help him get a better tech job. We basically had no idea. We asked the Tekzilla audience for help, and man, did you come through. Derek in Manitoba, Canada writes in, "I've been an IT tech and network analyst for 4 years now, and I'm writing on just a 1-year community college degree. I find that proof of some formal education helps you get in the door, but once you're there, show some assertiveness and interest in moving up the food chain. When it comes time to move up or look for another job, the knowledge and experience you gain from your own personal efforts, rather than indirectly through professors, really impresses them enough to give you a chance." You want to read this one?
Sure. Hey, Katie, Rob, Randy, Chris, and Jimmy all recommended the 5 levels of Cisco certifications, but most of you agreed with Rory in Tasmania, who writes, "The first question should really be, where do you want to go? For some industry jobs, the certifications you have or are getting will already be plenty. It certainly sounds like a good ground level coverage. Sounds like good ground level coverage for what you're doing. Or you could always take Andy's advice, who says, dude, you're on your way to having an edge over basically any intro job applicant. Every job out there in our field is either experience or paper, very rarely both. Since you have both the experience and are well on your way to having the certs, I say go big. Screw intro noob spots dealing with drunken idiots that don't know the difference between left and right click. Go for the big cushy job with a sweet office, full bennies, and weekends off. Hey, that's good to know, and it's always nice to hear firsthand experiences in getting a job in the tech sector, like we are. I think that's one of the more frequent emails we get sometimes. It's people wondering, how do you do what you do, or how do I get into that? You guys must talk to the people who do that sort of thing. And
yeah, somebody once
what's
asked
the
me
secret?
What certification and educational requirements were there for getting a job talking about technology on television. That's a
public speaking helps. Don't burn bridges. I don't care how much you're not getting along with everyone, but don't just grenade the bridge on your way out. You might have to talk or work with one of those people down the road.
Start exercising, doing cardio when you're young, and remember, go to a dentist at least once a year.
And when you
floss.
And if you smile when you're talking on the phone, it really transmits. It makes a big difference rather than like, yeah, whatever. I mean, even if you,
Life wisdom for everyone watching. But we're a tech show and we love on your questions. Email us, tekzilla@revision3.com. Tech out, product reviews, how-tos. You ask us, we'll do it. But we need your email, so don't be shy. Send them into tekzilla@revision3.com.
Hey, even better, send us a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Please just keep it to 15 seconds, upload it to YouTube, and send us the link in an email with video question in the subject line. And as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Tekzilla.
Your friends.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for watching, everyone.
I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Heron.
Till next time, you've been watching Tekzilla. No more cookies. I need my phone.
Girl Scout cookies make us stupid.